One of my first jobs I had was an after-hours janitor at Walmart. I worked from 9:30 at night until 6 a.m. when the opening manager got there. Now, typically, I had 2 other employees with me, but that varied, and a few nights I was alone. And one of the only things that I found creepy was the warehouse downstairs. Yeah, Walmart has a downstairs. It was the same size as the actual Walmart, and sometimes we had to go down there to grab the soap to run the machine that we used to wash the floors. But we rarely needed to do that, as there was normally a few left out for us from the second shift. One night I was there, alone, and I had used all the floor cleaner and had to go down to the warehouse to get some more soap. It already had an eerie vibe to it. It was pretty dimly lit, to be honest. Well, I walked over to grab some soap, and this was around 2 in the morning, so I still had quite a bit more time. I was grabbing the soap when I heard echoed footsteps. I was the only one there. I walked out of the aisle to see what looked to be a male in his mid-20s. "Who are you?" I yelled at him, shivering with fear. He said his name was Josh. This was his first night on the job, and he was told to look for the other worker to get some assistance, and was told that the warehouse was where we got the soap, and also where the break room was. I was creeped out, but he seemed legit. He knew the manager's name, and he answered all my rapid-fire questions when I asked him. We started working and everything was going well. He took an hour break at 5, pretty much just to get out of there early, said he would see me tomorrow night. The clock hit 6 a.m., and soon after that, my manager came. I asked why he didn't tell me about Josh, and then he looked at me confused. I said, "The new night worker." And what he told me next made the hairs on my neck stand up. He said, "There's no new night employee. You were working alone tonight. Was someone here with you?" A police report was filed, but, to my knowledge, nothing really came up. I quit that job the next day and never went back to that Walmart again. Okay, I need some feedback after you hear this story. I'm a 15-year-old female, and for some context, I live in a small town near Houston, Texas. It's about 40 to 50 miles away from the city. I live in a nice, safe, middle-class, small neighborhood with a bunch of old, retired people in it. The neighborhood itself is really small, only with about 7 streets. I'm in college, living with my parents and older sister. Our neighborhood has a nice hotel in it, and there are cops patrolling the neighborhood because of this. So, anyway, this happened to me about 2 months ago. My parents left me and my sister home alone for a week to go on a road trip during spring break. It was my first time ever being left alone overnight in the house with no adult for so long. No big deal, I wasn't a high schooler anymore. All I had to do was keep myself alive and the house clean and free of parties and just continue going to work and school like normal. It was the second night of my parents' departure, and they were in New Mexico by this point. My sister has a boyfriend, so she spent a lot of time over at his house. I have a boyfriend as well, but he works all the time, so I found myself at home alone and bored at around 5 p.m. I decided to go to the gym, which the hotel in my neighborhood has one, so I got all my crap and I headed out of the door. My mom has this weird fear of someone trying to open all of our windows and doors while we're sleeping to kill us, so she's a heckler about locking things. I only lock the door if I'm leaving the house unoccupied for a long period of time though. And when I was leaving, I got a strange feeling to lock the front and back door. I was going to ignore the feeling, but it kept picking at me, so I went back inside and locked the front and back door. I also wanted to run to the gym, but at the last minute before walking out of the door, I got a sudden sense of laziness and went to get my car keys, which is when I got the feeling to lock the door. No big deal. I'm not good with intuition, I'm just a paranoid person, so I didn't think much of it. I go to the gym for about an hour and a half, and while I'm there, I get this random, terrible, gut-wrenching feeling that gives me real bad anxiety. Now, I have a dog, and again, like I said, I'm a paranoid person, so my mind instantly went to the fact that My house must be on fire and my dog is trapped inside because I locked both the doors and no one is going to be able to save him. It's stupid, I know. In fact, so stupid that I didn't think it was actually possible, and I stayed and continued my workout at the gym with this lingering feeling of anxiety. I finish my workout and I head home, and of course, when I get home no more than 2 minutes later, I see my house is still there, not on fire. I get out and I start heading inside, but I notice something on my front door handle. My door handle is curved into a long C shape that attaches to the wood with a latch on top of the C, and you have to press with your thumb to open the door. Wrapped tightly around my door handle was a brown napkin that wasn't there when I locked the door before I left for the gym. I stopped instantly and I thought of the recent fentanyl poisonings, how people were putting liquid fentanyl on napkins and money, killing the people who came in contact with them with an overdose. I called my parents, who luckily answered their phone, and I explained what was happening. My mom was a bit spooked and she told me not to touch it, while my dad was trying to be rational, telling me it was probably just an advertisement that someone put on our door. It was clear that it wasn't an ad, even if it had maybe been ripped off, because my dad said it looked like someone ripped an ad off of our door handle whenever I FaceTimed them to show them. It had the texture of a thick paper bag, but I didn't look at it long enough to see exactly what it was. I instantly threw it on the ground. I unlocked my door, cleaned the handles with Clorox wipes, and the lock and the keys, and my hands, and then I washed the gloves. I left the paper bag on the ground for a while I stayed locked up in my house, not knowing what to do with it. I kept looking outside of the windows because I just knew someone had come and put that on our door, and I was wondering if they were still out there. I never saw anything or anyone or even got a weird feeling of being watched. My sister and her boyfriend came home, and then I got some courage, put on some more gloves, and went to go pick up and examine the brown paper bag. I brought it inside and we all looked at it underneath the light. It was 100% clearly a small brown paper bag. It looked like something a restaurant would put sauces or silverware in for to-go orders. It was crumpled up due to how tightly it was wrapped around the door handle, so I unfolded it. I almost dropped the paper bag again because of what I saw on it that scared me so bad. It was a clear, thick liquid that kind of resembled snot, smeared across the part of the paper bag that was touching the door handle. Now my sister and her boyfriend and I stayed kind of silent, all thinking the same thing. Fentanyl. Now, nothing weird or strange has happened since then, and I highly doubt that we have druggies in our neighborhood that would just come up to our door and stick trash in it. I question if it was truly fentanyl. I mentioned that I live in Houston because it's one of the biggest hotspots for trafficking in the country, and I'm curious to know if that may have anything to do with it. Maybe somebody was marking my house, or honestly, maybe it's nothing. I don't think it's nothing though, because someone intentionally came and put that brown paper bag on our door and got the heck out of there during the short time that I was at the gym. Man, I wish I had a Ring camera so that I had more answers, but I just don't. What do you think that could have been? Hey, it's me. If you like these stories so far and you're excited to hear more from the channel, click subscribe to let me know. Thank you. I have an outside entertainment system that I use a lot during the summer. It's a large projection screen and some outdoor furniture. We use a projector to watch movies late into the night during the summer. My 15-year-old son and I were out there watching a movie one night. It was around 2 or 3 in the morning, and suddenly I hear a clicking noise. It sounds like electricity clicking on and off. It also sounded a bit like the snapping of a fire. I live on a farm with miles of acreage, so I started to get worried that a freak fire had started. I paused our movie and I listened, and my son quickly whispered, "I hear it too." I always bring a flashlight out there with us. I picked it up. It's a Ryobi shop flashlight, so it's very bright. I shined it out into the open field behind us, and I couldn't see anything, but I could still hear that clicking noise. Suddenly, I froze. I was shining the flashlight out onto the field, but at the same time, I wasn't. Like the beam of light stopped maybe 10 feet away from me. It was like the light was reflecting back at me like it had hit something that I just couldn't see. I moved the flashlight to the side and the beam spread out over the ground like it should have. And my son, who's afraid of nothing by the way, started to panic, and that scared me. I mean, this kid isn't afraid of anything. He loves true crime, missing people docs, horror movies, and he's never had nightmares because of them. He's never been afraid of the dark or anything like that, so the fact that he was scared meant that there was something to be scared of. He suddenly tells me, "It's a glimmer man. Mom, we have to get out of here now." Now, I had no idea what he was talking about. I mean, I'm into the supernatural, but I've never heard of that term before. I escorted him back into the house, and then I went back out to collect our projector and the other things that we had left out there. The noise had stopped by the time I got back out there, so I was less afraid. And once I collected everything, I decided to take another look. I needed to make sure that a fire hadn't started. I shined the flashlight around, and suddenly, the beam was blocked and then unblocked. It was like something had run through the beam of light. I was really scared by that point, so I ran back into the house. Later, I looked up accounts of the Glimmer Man, and that seems to be exactly what I saw.